Dearest, there are no accidents, and no explanation I offer will satisfy you. I like that. You seek resolutions because you're young, but you will understand this one day.
How many times have you been in love?
You're always the most beautiful woman in the room.
Therese Belavet.
Carol. Tell me you know what you're doing.
I never did.
And then it changed.
She's still my wife. I love her.
I can't help you with that.
It shouldn't be like this.
I know. If he can't have me, I can't see my daughter. Everything comes full circle. We gave each other the most breathtaking of gifts.
Oh, goodness.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the show, everybody.
Happy New Year's. This is our New Year's episode.
It is our
and
New
kind
Year's
of the end of our Christmassy lineup.
Is it our season finale?
Our holiday season finale. Yes, this is an official season finale
Wow.
of Movies That Made Us Gay.
How do you like that,
Yep.
everybody? Well, listeners out there, all of you, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott, and these are the movies that made us gay.
Yes, indeed.
We decided to have a little New Year's Eve party with returning guest Jackson Cooper.
Welcome back.
Hey, hi.
Jackson,
Hi.
I think you have been the guest that has been on the most.
What?
On our show in this year.
I'm not. This year.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't. Okay.
How about
okay,
that?
So,
I mean, you reached out to us kind of earlier this year, and we just settled on Mommy Dearest, and we just hit it off and just kept inviting you back on.
I have to say, this is the thing in my life I'm asked about most, and I do.
Oh, I'd love that.
Is
I'd love to hear
movies
that.
that made us gay, either from my family or my
love it.
friends
Oh, I love
or people at work. So thank you all for having me on. This has
great.
been
Yeah, I mean, you were like one of,
How many episodes does this make for Jackson, Scott? Three?
I think so. You first came on
Sweet.
for Mommy Dearest. Well, what did you follow up Mommy Dearest with? Can't Stop the Music.
Can't Stop the Music, and then I was with Pickens for Friday 13th.
Friday the 13th.
there
So
you
this is your
go.
fourth episode.
But this will be my fourth appearance, but my
There you
third full
go.
episode.
There
Yeah.
you go. I love it. Well, welcome back.
Mm-hmm. Well, welcome back to the show, and we watched the newest movie that we have ever covered on our podcast.
Okay.
We watched Carol, directed by Todd Haynes, our first Todd Haynes movie of the podcast.
Yeah.
Kind of a big deal. Released November 20th, 2015. This is a very new movie for this podcast.
For us, yeah.
I think that previously Notes on a Scandal and Marie Antoinette, both 2006.
Wow.
And this is a movie from the last, 6 years.
Okay.
I'm really surprised. This is the most recent one, and also that this is the first Todd Haynes. I would have
Yes.
thought Velvet Goldmine
Yeah.
or Poison, maybe even Far From Heaven would have beat. But this is great.
Our introduction to Todd Haynes.
I feel like for me, Far From Heaven is slog is not the right word.
I remember really flipping for Far From
It's
Heaven.
a lot. It's a lot.
When
It's
I
a
was,
lot. It's
I
heavy.
remember really flipping for that movie when I
Yeah.
was 17 years old.
Yeah.
I still really like it. I think Julianne Moore is
Great.
incredible in it.
Yes.
But I feel like kind of in 2021, it's a little like White Savior of when you look back on the movie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like maybe Carol might be my favorite of his.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, I think I loved Safe, and I was weirdly obsessed with Safe in high school because I was so on the. It was before it went into Criterion, but I was really obsessed with Magnolia, which does not hold up to this day. And so that led me to my obsession with Julianne Moore, and I was like, oh, the guy who did Far From Heaven, which I hadn't seen, but it was a very popular movie when it came out. I said, oh, that guy made this movie called Safe, and I watched it, and it terrified me so much. And so when I saw he was doing I'm Not There and then Carol, I was like, this is the same guy, but it's we'll get into how Todd Haynes shifts. It was Safe is my favorite, but on rewatch of this movie last night, this still holds up.
Right.
I have not seen Safe. It's one of those movies that it's always been on my list, but I've heard from everyone who I talk to about it just says that it is like emotionally draining to sit down and actually watch.
Well, and now during the try watching it in the pandemic.
Oh, sure, yeah.
In the world, I mean, because it's about Julianne Moore who thinks she is sick, and no one believes her, and then she starts to actually get sick, and so it's like, yeah, it's probably not. I would wait a few years, but it's amazing, and it is hard to watch. Yeah. Now I haven't. We'll bookmark this, but I haven't seen Notes on a Scandal.
Oh goodness,
that makes another controversial take. So anyway, we'll dog ear that for later.
Yeah, for sure. But how do any of these hold up to Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story? I mean, that's the real,
also really hard watch, very hard watch.
And that's the one that's done with dolls.
Yep, with Barbies. Yep.
Goodness.
Yeah.
All right.
I've seen it at Videotech.
Go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say, I've seen it at Videotech in the Todd Haynes section, but I've never actually watched it.
Right.
Yep, they have a bootleg of it.
There was a VHS of it at Alamo Drafthouse in Raleigh, and I asked Josh Schaefer, who was the head of the Video Vortex, like the VHS, I said, could we just show it? I said, I'd love to do like a Todd Haynes like marathon and all this. And there's so many rights that you can't show. You can't even advertise it or anything. He goes, maybe we could do a like special screening, but every time that's happened, it's always been shut down. Okay. But you can find it on YouTube. It's all on YouTube.
I wonder why that is. Is it just all over music?
I think it's the music, yeah.
Okay, sure. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's all the music.
Usually with kind of situations like that over copyrights, it's always because of music.
Right, yeah.
All right. Well, that leads us to Carol, this wonderful lesbian drama.
So, Pete, do you remember when Carol came out, November of 2015?
Yes.
I drug your ass to that movie at the ArcLight Hollywood opening weekend. We saw it the Saturday that it came out.
Yes. I mean, are you insinuating that I'm not a fan of quiet dramas featuring
it might not be
impeccably dressed white women?
It might not
I think
be
you're saying you don't like Lesbian.
what you would rush out to go see. I would definitely have to pretty much be booking the ticket for you for a movie like this.
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't have immediately gone out to see it, but I enjoyed this movie. It's well done. It's well acted. It's got that Rooney Mara. She actually says words in this movie. She's not just. I mean, she is sitting around looking tragic, but she's doing something. What has she been up to lately, Rooney?
Rooney Mara was just in Nightmare Alley with Kate. She had her Carol reunion with Cate Blanchett.
Okay,
in Nightmare Alley.
Well, before Nightmare Alley, she's just been sitting around being rich, married to Joaquin Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Has she worked since her?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, I haven't seen her.
I mean, she's been in all sorts of stuff.
Okay. All right, well, good for her. I like her in this movie. I mean, Cate Blanchett, come on, get out of here.
It's probably one of my favorite Cate Blanchett's roles that she's ever done.
I think it's her most. It's everything we want her to be because she is. We think of her as like an older actress, like I don't know, just older in sensibility, and then here she is doing this 1950s Grace Kelly impersonation almost and it's just like, yes, classy and wonderful, like a Hollywood actress, Cate Blanchett. She's so good in that.
So while we're on the subject of Cate Blanchett, we have done, I think that we've done Notes on a Scandal this year and Talented Mr. Ripley. Oh, yeah. So this is our third Cate Blanchett movie.
All right.
And to kind of celebrate that, I came up with a little Cate Blanchett quiz.
Uh-oh.
Jackson, you mentioned that you wanted some sort of a quiz or something.
I know, I got to put my phone down. I was looking up what Rooney Mara has been doing. And of course, she was, by the way, of course, Rooney Mara was in A Ghost Story with
geez.
the Affleck.
Oh, geez,
Yep.
Louise, the ghost story.
She's good. Anyway.
Can either of you can kind of tag team it. You can do it all together.
All right.
Can you name her 4 movies and her IMDb most known for?
Cate Blanchett's most known for. All right.
Like the mysterious algorithm on IMDb,
Yeah.
what comes up, do you think, on Cate Blanchett?
Gotta be Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring.
Fellowship of the Ring is there.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right, good call.
At least one.
One Marvel movie?
Well, what I was going to say, at least one of the Lord of the Rings movies are there.
Okay, so is it not Fellowship?
Fellowship's there.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying, but at least one.
Aviator?
The Aviator isn't there.
What?
Her first Oscar win is not there. No.
Wow.
It should be.
That's crazy.
Blue Jasmine?
No. And I think that Blue Jasmine used to be there, and it got taken off by something.
Is Thor Ragnarok on there?
No.
Oh, jeez.
It's got to be Notes on the Scandal. Then.
Nope.
Well, God.
Okay, so I'll give you a hint.
Okay, yeah, we need
I
to
said
hear.
at least one Lord of the Rings movie.
Return of the
is there.
King.
Return of the King is there.
Okay.
And I believe Return of the King, because I keep an eye on Cate Blanchett's IMDb from time to time, it replaced Blue Jasmine.
Okay, so so far we have 2 of the 4, and they're both Lord of the Rings movies.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
So you got 2 more.
And hate it at the same time. All right, 2 more.
Elizabeth the Golden Age?
You're close.
Elizabeth.
Just Elizabeth.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Elizabeth is there,
Okay.
and what is the 4th?
The last one.
Don't overthink this.
Don't overthink it. And he said Aviator already.
It's Carol.
It's Carol.
That's Carol.
That's her number 1 movie. Yep.
That's the number 1 movie. All right, good. Okay.
Wow, okay. All right.
Very
okay.
interesting.
How many Oscar nominations does she have?
Oh, Lord.
I looked this up. Isn't it like it's significant? It's like 6 or 7.
Oh, I don't know.
It is 6.
6.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
6 with 2 Waynes.
Yeah.
And what year was she double nominated in both lead and supporting? She's a part of that exclusive
Double
actor club
nominated in lead
that
and
she got
supporting.
2 acting nominations in 1 year.
Okay. Did she win any of them that
No.
year? Okay.
She lost both.
I don't know.
I really don't know. I was like, was she nominated for Life Aquatic?
It was 2007, and she was nominated in lead for Elizabeth the Golden Age and supporting for I'm Not There as Bob Dylan.
Oh, okay.
How many BAFTA nominations do you think she has?
Oh, Lord. All of them?
Yeah, 15.
She has 7. And what movie was she nominated in BAFTA and not for Oscar?
not for
I think
Oscar.
she should have cracked the supporting category that year.
It was a supporting category. She got the BAFTA, not the Oscar nom.
I'll give you a hint. It was in
Yes,
the year
yes.
1999.
99. Okay, so that was
99.
It's an iconic performance of the movie too, in my opinion.
Is it that heist movie with Bruce Willis?
Bandits? I love Bandits, though. She sadly was not nominated for Bandits.
Oh, that's so good.
Iconic performance in this movie.
Let me give you another hint.
Yes,
We have
another
talked
hint.
about it on this podcast.
Oh, I'm sure we have.
We did a whole episode of it
The
this year.
Talented Mr. Ripley.
The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Oh, of
Yay.
course.
She's so good as Meredith.
And she got no Oscar nomination
She
for
did
it.
not.
No Oscar nomination.
I mean,
for that?
sadly, The
How
Talented
about
Mr.
that?
Ripley, while it got a lot of technical nominations, I feel like
Didn't
it was
get a
at a
lot of
time that there was some backlash with both Matt Damon and Gwyneth Paltrow, just in Hollywood in general, that they did not really get seriously talked about for the major acting categories.
Okay.
And I feel like maybe Cate Blanchett was kind of too cool of a choice in that category that year.
Right.
It was also a wildly subversive movie
Yes.
for its time. Like it's
True.
so good, but
Yeah.
it's like that could have been made yesterday, not in 1999.
Yeah.
Wildly subversive, but everything is on the surface of that movie. Like, nothing is subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, no,
But
not at all.
But for audiences in Hollywood, it was definitely like... Okay.
Okay, so she is one of 3 actresses nominated for playing members of the opposite sex. Who are the other 2?
Nominated for playing members of the opposite sex.
For playing men.
Well, we got Linda Hunt, who won.
Linda Hunt, who won.
She won
Yep.
in a very questionable win because...
Probably should have been Cher.
Yeah.
That should probably be Cher's Oscar for
for
the movie with Meryl Streep and Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Does Raul Julia count? Was he nominated for Kiss of the Spider Woman?
I don't think that Raul Julia was nominated for Kiss of the Spider Woman. Actually,
okay. Great.
What else do we got?
There's one more.
Is it a cis female actress playing a male character?
No.
Is that what this one is? It's not. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a man playing a woman.
A man playing a.
Okay, so it is a woman playing a trans woman.
Felicity Huffman.
It's Felicity Huffman.
Yeah.
For Trans America.
Okay.
Probably she's really good in that movie, but probably for the best that she did not win for Trans America. I don't know how it would really hold up all these years later. Okay. She is one of 6 actresses to win both lead and supporting. Can you name some of the other 5?
They've won lead and supporting.
Mm-hmm. This is probably more of a question for me. I know these. I know these stupid facts like off the top of my head.
Were Sally Fields both for
Sally Fields were both for lead.
Were both for lead. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's Fields singular.
Field,
but I was saying Fields. As
Fields is
possessive. Yes,
yeah. Mm-hmm. I follow you.
2. Okay, so we got to go double Oscar winners. Oh man,
I mean, Meryl.
Meryl's one of them.
She had.
She won supporting for Kramer versus Kramer, and then she has 2 leads.
2 leads, right?
Okay.
Frances McDormand.
No, Frances McDormand's are all leads.
All 3.
Oh, all leads, right? Even 3 billboards is
So let me give you a hint. One was for a movie from the 80s, and one was for a movie from the 90s. And with Oscar fanatics, they're not really liked wins.
Oh, Jessica Lange.
Jessica Lange.
Oh,
yeah.
of course.
For Tootsie, the year that Tootsie came out, I feel like it probably should have been Terry Garr who won. If you're going to be giving out an award for Tootsie,
significantly better.
And nobody gives a shit about Blue Sky.
Mm-hmm. Blue Sky does not exist, as you like.
And
as you
the
like
other
to point
one,
out.
we just covered a movie of hers.
Okay,
last week.
Maggie Smith.
Maggie Smith.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
For Prime, and then.
What did she win supporting for?
I can't remember. I've never seen her supporting actress win movie.
Okay. Well, the Prime. Have you seen the Prime?
She won for Gosford Park.
No, that was Jennifer Connelly. Yeah, but that was her last nomination, though. I'll just give you the other 2. It's Helen Hayes, and Ingrid Bergman.
Okay. All right.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, with clues, we got.
Yeah, you did pretty good. What's the highest grossing Cate Blanchett movie? This one's kind of a no-brainer.
Thor Ragnarok.
No.
Oh!
This movie was the biggest movie in the world at the time.
Cate Blanchett, biggest movie in the world.
I mean, maybe not like Titanic numbers, but it got pretty close.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm not going to be able to think.
One of them is in her most known for.
Oh, Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King.
Yeah,
it's Return of the King.
Return of the King.
What is the lowest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes? I didn't even know she was in this movie, and I'll give you a hint. It is directed by George Clooney, and another hint, nobody talks about this movie.
Michael Clayton?
No.
He didn't direct that.
It's about art thieves in World War II.
Oh, gosh.
It's about soldiers. It's about like Nazis and stolen paintings.
It has a weird name. Doesn't it have a weird name?
It is called The Monument Men.
The Monument Men.
Monument Men. Yeah,
Monuments Men.
I was going to say, was she in movie 43? Because that has a really
that movie does have a pretty insane cast.
Guys, what's going? Yeah.
Okay, on the opposite end of the spectrum, what is the highest rated movie? This one was interesting.
Highest rated. What are you talking about? Rotten Tomatoes score.
Rotten Tomatoes score.
Highest Rotten
Tomatoes. What has the highest critical percentage on Rotten Tomatoes
of all of Cate Blanchett's movies?
Is it Blue Jasmine? I hate to go back.
Blue Jasmine's up there, though.
It's up there. Yeah, that has a weirdly high score on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not there.
I'll give you. I was going to say it's one of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Is it Return of the King?
It's not Return of the King.
Fellowship.
Nope.
The Two Towers.
It's the Two Towers. I thought that was interesting.
That is very weird.
And it is followed closely by Carol at 1%.
How does that have a higher one than
the other two?
Okay.
Yeah, that's
and
weird.
Especially like the character of Galadriel is just so awkwardly put in the Two Towers that she has one scene where she monologues to Hugo Weaving,
and it's all in like a trance, like a weird like.
Yeah, it's a whole dream sequence. It's
Yeah.
all like she's superimposed into the movie because they needed a break from something.
I do love that shit that Galadriel is not in a lot of the books, but I mean, they were going to put her in all 3 of those movies.
They can't have a 3-hour movie with 0 women in it.
Especially for the second movie.
I think they were going to, and then someone said,
wait a minute.
we should really.
Oh boy! Wow! All right.
So yeah, that was our Cate Blanchett quiz.
Very nice.
You both did very well.
Good job.
I'm such an awards nut that I can pull out obscure Oscar things that I feel like I would probably get, but
yeah, you had
not everyone would.
but with the clues, we were able to jump in there. So all right, good job.
So back to Carol.
So Carol. All right. So we need to synopsize this movie.
Well, I feel like the conversation should begin with Patricia Highsmith.
Right.
Because I think that from everything that I've read about Carol, that this was published under The Price of Salt, and she originally published this novel under Claire Morgan, a pseudonym after it got rejected from the publisher.
Right.
Yeah, and then it was republished later, and they retitled it Carol. So I think that they published it under The Price of Salt, and then I think that later Prince went back and it's called Carol. And from everything that I've read, the Therese character is just pretty much her.
Right, because it was based on an encounter she had with a woman wearing a fur or something. It was very it was very abstract and vague how she described it, but it was based on her, which is pretty crazy for 1950s, like for a woman to write about a relationship. So, and this was right after she wrote Strangers on a Train, which is another homoerotic charged, and of course, talented Mr. Ripley is just one of the gayest things ever.
Wow. How did she keep getting away with it?
Yeah, she could get away with it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like that she was just at that time at that position of high literary society in New York where she probably could just publish material like this. And I like to think that Carol is almost a character that's a collection of numerous women in her life that she just put into this character.
Right.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel autobiographical at all. Like, and even when I read the book before seeing the movie, when it first came out, my roommate at the time in college, who was amazing, she was obsessed with it. Obviously, she was a lesbian. And she was obsessed with it. She was obsessed with Cate Blanchett, so she bought the book, and then we just passed it around our house reading it. And none of it feels autobiographical. It feels extremely distanced and, just sort of, putting a bunch of different characters together without anything that felt very personal, which is weird because she based it on a personal experience.
So I wonder if it was a situation, though, where the experience was, like you said, she met this woman, and was just kind of taken with the idea of what if this would happen with that, like, super high glam rich woman that I saw, and then built this story in her head, just the way you do sometimes.
Or maybe some of it actually did happen. I don't know.
Maybe it did. But
that's the Aunt Abby character. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And what struck me in the rewatch last night was how much it held on to what you were saying, Pete, where it was just like this giant what if. Like there's just a lot of open-endedness to the entire movie.
Yeah, especially how it ends.
Yeah, especially how it ends, of course. Yeah, but I think it did that well to her source material.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of interesting when I was reading about Phyllis Nagy, who was close friends with Highsmith in the 90s when they were first developing this movie, that I think kind of the later years of Patricia Highsmith's life, that she was helping to develop Carol in The Price of Salt for a movie. And she knew Phyllis, the screenwriter, who was just kind of this badass lesbian trailblazing screenwriter, and she was friends with her.
That's cool.
So she kind of helped her develop this to a movie. And this was kind of I think, material that had been working the rounds in the studio system. I think a lot of directors at one point were attached to it, and then nothing just ended up happening. I was reading Kenneth Branagh, Kimberly Pierce from Boys Don't Cry, Stephen Frears. I could see all of those directors making a pass at this movie, probably sometime in the early 2000s. And I think that nothing was really becoming of it, and then Cate Blanchett got wind of it, and she kind of kickstarted the project again.
Yeah, and I liked how Hagee said she never set out to make it an agenda film, which was very refreshing.
And I know that was probably a part of the struggle with selling it to investors, that we're not making an agenda movie. Like, this isn't Boys Don't Cry.
Yeah.
Like, this is an intimate love story between two women. And I would imagine that probably independent investors at the time weren't too, like, kind of about making this quiet love story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even into the 90s, I mean, that was like Hollywood was sort of making up for how quiet it was with the AIDS crisis and stuff. So you got these like very camp, the Man in the Dress movies like Mrs. Doubtfire and To Wong Fu and stuff. So it was just like this giant sort of apologizing to queer characters that lasted. And like new queer cinema was just starting to launch. So it wasn't quite at the point where, like, what I love about this movie too is that it came at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because watching it now, I was like, oh, coming post 90s, this like the Tarantino, David Fincher, like it was just in that style that's so overdone right now. Like I was like, oh, the colors and these long like the way the camera's in their face in the car, but they're wide shots. Like everyone does that now in an A24 movie, and I was like, but that was kind of revolutionary at the time. So.
I think that also a miniseries on HBO like Mildred Pierce probably had a big reason why somebody like Cate Blanchett wanted to sign on to a movie like this. Have you ever seen Mildred Pierce? Like I did, yeah, the miniseries,
and I really liked it because I really loved the novel.
It's definitely like sort of like a sister companion to material like Carol too.
Well, I think Todd Haynes needed to make Mildred Pierce before he could make Carol, because Mildred Pierce is so long and drawn out, and yet it's still about like working class America. It's very muted tones. The performances are very understated. And then Carol is just, every shot is perfect. Yeah. Every single thing he does is just perfection.
He can just sort of zero in on something a little more specific.
So, speaking of the timing of this movie's release and production, I want to talk a little bit about the timing of this movie. And if this movie was made today, would Cate Blanchett and Rooney Mara have the opportunity to star in it?
Sure.
Is Cate Blanchett that big of a star that she can get around? She's a straight woman playing this queer character. Maybe the Rooney Mara character, they would cast, a queer actress. They brought in
Sarah Paulson.
They brought in Carrie Bronstein at the very end, to kind of have these queer characters. But these actresses are playing these kind of like, Sarah Paulson's playing the sidekick kind of character, and Carrie's in it for one scene, and our two leads are straight women, and it's like Cate Blanchett is this character. I don't falter for it, and I'm not going to sit here and say, well, they should have given it to Sarah Paulson. Why couldn't Sarah Paulson play Carol?
Right, and she plays a version of Aunt Abby and Ratched, kind of.
Yeah, sure.
Sort of repressed lesbian.
Yes. So, I mean, do we think that if this movie were to have been produced, in 2021... Would they have gone a different route with casting, or is Cate just kind of like beyond that because she's so good and she just brought so much to this character?
I kind of think it's the latter because it's Cate Blanchett.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think Rooney Mara's would have probably been recast in some regard.
I think so.
But I don't know. I hate to sound so pessimistic, but it's like every time we hope that there is representation in the casting with a queer story, we're disappointed, because I kept thinking back to watching Call Me by Your Name when I was watching this. I kept thinking about the first time I saw that, and I was just like, oh, okay, Chalamet is amazing, like great in that role. He's not gay that we know of, but I was like, but it's fine. Like, it's fine. It's the story was so beautifully told. I don't want to say I didn't care, but it's a different conversation. Yeah.
And the thing is, like, the role of Carol, it needs somebody with this, and not that
I think it needs somebody with that type of star power.
Yes,
that you can tell,
and who understands the style.
Yes.
Like, I think what Todd Haynes does well, even with someone like Julianne Moore in Far From Heaven, is that, like, she gets the style.
Yeah.
So, and even Dennis Quaid in that does too. It's like they get it, and they're playing this very highly stylized. Even Carol is highly stylized in the acting. So yeah, I think Cate is the only person who could play that sort of enigma character, know.
And it does help that it's directed by a gay man too.
Yeah.
That you see this world through the lens of somebody in the LGBT community.
Yeah.
And sorry, I was just going to add, and funny enough, I was doing my research, the first Todd Haynes that he didn't write, which I thought was really interesting.
That is
because he wrote Safe, he wrote Velvet Goldmine, all of that, and I think even I'm Not There. So this was his first with someone else's material, which was also really interesting.
I didn't see Dark Waters with Anne Hathaway. I feel like nobody talks about that movie. Do you remember that? It was the one with Mark Ruffalo. I mean, it came and went. Nobody. It's the one that they're going to be skipping over in like the AFI.
That's not the one with Jennifer Connelly where it's raining in her apartment.
No, that's dark. That's the other Dark Water.
Just Dark Water. Okay.
Yeah, I liked that one.
That one was good.
That one was really good. The kids there, yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. Cate Blanchett she has a gravitas to her performance style, her acting, and to use an overused statement, but it kind of works here. She understood the assignment. Like, she knows what's going on with these kind of period movies, and
these two characters, I didn't realize it was like, and I'm not saying they choose to be gay or whatever, but there is this element that's really sort of heavy-handed in the film that, like, they used to, Cate Blanchett's character had affairs, and now now she's putting up this front of being a straight housewife kind of thing. Right. So I was like, okay, she kind of gets Cate Blanchett, or using a heterosexual actress. I was like, okay, that's kind of a padding of sorts that the casting is like, well, she used to.
Well, yeah, the whole time I'm watching it, this time around, I'm watching it going, well, she really lucked out that Therese was into it.
Yeah.
But I think the whole idea was that it was the very first look when Carol is in the toy department at the train station, looks up, catches her eye, and she's like, oh, that one.
We've all been there.
She's staring at me already.
But that dinner scene or that lunch scene, you for a minute you're like, wait, she's not into this, and then you start to get it. I got a little like, shit, like she's not into, or what if she's not into it?
Yeah, because you have to take into account the period, right?
Yeah.
So on the one hand, a queer person in that period wouldn't even have the internal language to say, yes, I am attracted to this woman. But she just kind of knows it. And so she's going along, against her better judgment. But on the other hand, you could also say, like you're thinking, maybe it's just totally innocent on Therese, and she's just like, "Oh, I gave her gloves back. Now she wants to take me to lunch."
This rich lady just invited me out to cocktails.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there with older gay men. Like, come on, it's just like, oh, he likes me.
Yeah.
He's buying me nice stuff. He took me to dinner.
It made me think back to my time working at Nordstrom when I was 20, and there was a gentleman who would often come into my department, and you know where he worked, Scott?
Flirting with the cute shop boys at the San Anita Mall.
You know where he worked? He worked at the Pudding Stone, the hot tub spa resort.
Oh,
and
wow.
he would give me his card and would be like, you should come to my work, I'll get you a discount on the rooms and blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, what is this? I thought it was like a spa.
Wait a minute. Well,
it was a hot tub.
Are you talking about
in San Dimas?
In San Dimas, which is long since closed. Okay, so Jackson, have you ever seen Howard the Duck?
Yes, of course.
Do you remember when Howard the Duck gets a job at the spa with the hot tubs? That's it. Yep.
It's pretty much just like a straight bathhouse.
It's like a straight bathhouse, yeah, which I'd love. I miss it.
Oh my god, that's hilarious! And he's like, come and have a martini and some cream spinach in my hot tub.
Yeah, over poached eggs. Oh my god, 50s cuisine. God. No, thank you. Yeah, so I was thinking back to that. I was like, I remember that time when I got my hair done, and he was like, "Oh, I like your highlights." It was the 90s.
Much like when Carol says, "I like the hat."
Yes,
I like the highlights.
It was very much that. I had got my hair streaked. It was 1999.
You lived Carol.
I was Therese Belichick or whatever. It's Polish. It's Czech. Sorry. Yeah. So I related to it in some ways, but yeah. The time period is something that I always have in the back of my head when watching this movie.
Yeah.
People's attitudes, the way that you would have to conduct yourself in public when you are in these kinds of situations. But like I said, there's also that naivete that the general public might have where they wouldn't even consider it because it's so out of...
Gaydar was not really something that was on people's minds.
Although the men are garbage in this.
Oh my goodness!
Because it's like they don't have any naivete, and it all goes from 0 to you're fucking her.
Yeah,
in a split second. And
I mean, can we just talk about how Jake Lacey is making a career of playing a fucking douchebag?
Yeah,
that, shits on his girlfriend.
He was just in Being the Ricardos, pretty much playing the same character in the writer's room for I Love Lucy. Yep.
Just a misogynistic prick who has no clue.
He's really good at it, though.
He's great at it. You just want to punch him.
yeah, and Kyle Chandler, who I adore and love and is great. He's my mom's favorite actress, and I was like, you need to watch it because Kyle Chandler's in it. I said, he really plays an asshole in this. He's the worst. He's the worst in this movie. And they're all terrible.
They're terrible. Kyle Chandler's awful, and every now and then I'm like, maybe he does love her, but then I'm like, no, he doesn't.
No,
it's not love.
He shows up drunk to get the kid, and I forgot.
It's a power trip.
When that scene happened, I had forgotten that there was a driver in the car. And so the whole time I'm like, oh my god, brilliant Todd Haynes. He's drunk and he's demanding the kid and then going to drive home. And then I see the driver. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because she even says, you're drunk. Let me make you a cup of coffee.
Go on and drink a cup of coffee, Kyle Chandler.
With the kid freezing in the car, let me make you coffee. These priorities in the 50s.
Yeah.
Kyle Chandler as, Carol's husband. Yeah. I'm watching this movie going, what in the white waspy hell? Harge aired?
Yeah.
Harge aired. Harge aired.
Everyone
has a weird name.
What is the daughter's name? Lindy? Bindi? Brindy? The daughter's got a crazy name.
Daughter's got a weird name,
Daughter's got a crazy name I'd never heard of before. Carol aired. Harge. I can't even say Harge aired. It's not even a name. It's like the punchline of a weird joke. Yeah. But again, different time.
Yeah. High society of New York.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, very that.
Carol's house, that stone house. I mean, are these mansions just in Long Beach?
Long Island, you mean?
Yeah. Not Long Beach. I meant
LBC?
Long Island. Yeah.
I think it's Long Island. It looked a little like no. I think it was upstate New York because I saw some Royal Tenenbaums set locations. I was oh yeah, they passed by that cemetery at one point. Yeah, it's very waspy. It's also like we don't know. I love movies from the 50s and movies that take place during this time where it's like you don't really know what he does and it doesn't matter.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But it's like post World War II. Everyone's like it's like pre Eisenhower, so everyone's kind of like confused. Weird.
We see them. They're at the movies in the projection booth and they're showing Sunset Boulevard. So we get the idea, okay, so this is probably 1950, 1951.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, Therese, a single woman living in the city, is able to, afford her own apartment, working, as a shop girl. Her $30 a month rent, probably.
Yeah.
Hoping to be a photographer one day. And
I mean, it does kind of comfort me that I've worked so many shitty customer service jobs that everybody has always hated working in retail.
Oh, yeah.
For decades.
Well, and don't forget retail during the holidays. That's a universal.
It is just soul sucking. Yeah. Just like watching like the floor supervisor snap her fingers. Oh.
It's that thing that everybody in retail can relate to where the management is a little too into it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, why are you so invested in this?
Yeah.
This job is what you're like putting all this effort into? Jeez, priority.
Taking it way too seriously.
Way too seriously.
And then I love when they're the guy's giving the company hats, the Santa hats.
He says it to every
single
person.
That's very retail too, where the company's like, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. Like, happy holidays, we're thinking of you.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck is this?
There is just something also about the paint in that store that it's just that mint that is so 50s looking.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, the scenes in the department store, I love.
I love all that too.
I am transported because I am so fascinated by the idea of these old-timey actual department stores.
We have
not like Macy's today, but like Macy's then.
We have a leftover department store like this that is...
Well, it is a Macy's.
The Macy's in Pasadena that is like a multi-level old school department store.
And you can see they never redesigned the inside, so it has all the counters.
You get the cool elevators.
It has the cool elevators. It has all that stuff. And that is so wild to me that you could go and buy a train set, a fur coat, probably like a pup tent.
I was going to say some camping equipment.
Yeah, all of those. And then, like, it's the same with those furniture stores where there were like 5 floors and they just went back, like way, way back. And you're like, what the heck? I'm going to get lost here.
Yeah, I love it. Those early scenes in the movie. And actually, most of this movie is very like I am transported. I think they do a really cool job of the period, and it's very spare.
How they set dress Carol's living room, Rooney Mara's apartment.
Yeah.
Even I love the old motels, like when they're going on the road trip. Like I'm obsessed with like those old designs for the motels and stuff like that. So that's just also incredible how they recreated all of those. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, all right. So we have to.
I'm glad that you recommended for me to watch Brief Encounter before I watch this movie, because though these two movies just really pair nicely with each other, because Todd Haynes sort of takes the structure from Brief Encounter of just sort of entering this intimate conversation in the very first scene, and you don't know what the subtext or what this conversation is about with these two people, with this outside person that interrupts it. And then we sort of trace back the steps of these characters, and it returns to the conversation, and you sort of know what's going on. I think that's a really clever way to be introduced to these two characters. And that's what happens in Brief Encounter.
Yeah, and Haynes worked with Hagee about that. Like he actually said, like, we should do a Brief Encounter kind of thing, where just to create a bookend very well. But I mean, it's almost down to the shot, because the hand is the same too. That
brushes her with the hand. Yeah,
and the camera is behind her, so you don't see the head. It's a great movie to do, and also a movie that Brief Encounter, written by Noel Coward, that if you watch it, who is gay. So if you watch it as this like tale of unrequited love through the eyes of a gay man writing it, it's kind of like Todd Haynes writing, or not writing, but directing this. It's just like it's a very queer movie.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what he did with Far From Heaven with the Douglas Sirk movie. Of that, if we were going to have these complex issues like racism and homosexuality, this is sort of him making Brief Encounter, and he's actually going to go there,
updating it.
Yep.
Yeah, and he finds, I think, different from Far From Heaven, because I think Far From Heaven leans very into the like melodrama of that, and especially the Douglas Sirk movies. I mean, you could watch those back to back and be like, oh, it's the same thing. But he does it really well with Brief Encounter because he shows how contemporary the love story is, which Brief Encounter does too, because it's very muted. It is kind of about class, and Carol is a little bit about classism, but it's more about this like, two people who can't be together and what happens with their, So
when Carol and Therese first meet, Carol is obviously going through struggles in her marriage, in her family life.
She's separated from Kyle Chandler.
She's separated from Harge. Harge is fully aware of her previous dalliances with Sarah Paulson, with Abby, who she is still in touch with, and they just have a friendship now, which I love.
They're just like,
because there's nothing. There's nothing more like
gal
queer.
Friends now. Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing more queer than that. It's like, oh, we used to fuck, but we just hang out and like kiki now and like have lunch. And Therese is in this relationship with Jake Lacey, and even at the beginning, before she meets Carol, she's very just like,
yeah, like half listening to him as he's talking about going to Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, this is great, this is fine, like, all good.
So she's not, it's not even that Carol kind of pushes her out of that or makes her, this revelation. She's, from the start, she's kind of ambivalent about her relationship with Jake Lacey.
Well, I love those two, like, their transformations, which I noticed last night, which was that, like, Therese starts, she's young. I mean, this is like first love, and so she's young and she grows into this sort of mature decision maker. And then Carol starts out really strong and becomes way more vulnerable as it comes in until she's so broken of sorts by the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love how like the doe-eyed look of Rooney Mara is so cute at that beginning. She's just, you can tell she's literally not, just doesn't know what's going on.
Oh yeah.
For the
completely,
world.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when she sends the gloves back that Carol leaves at the counter accidentally on purpose,
we don't know.
Oh.
But is it a thing that Carol is like? I mean,
is this a predatory lesbian?
Is it a predatory lesbian?
Especially from like the 1950s.
Call in now, 1-800.
Yeah, the phones are lighting up.
The phone lines are on.
They're on fire. It's a Christmas tree in here.
Kind of an interesting spin on it, too.
It is, but it's like, I don't know. I think it's a thing where it's just, again, time frame. You have to think. It's the 50s.
You just kind of think, like, who does Carol think she is?
She's just casting her net out very well. I don't know.
Openly hitting on this cute shop girl.
But it's not in the open. I mean, it kind of is at the counter, but then she waits for it to be a phone call.
I'm with you, Pete. I think it's really when she goes to lunch.
Yes, yeah.
That's like the true interrogation, and a testament to Kate's acting. I mean, you see it all on her face when she realizes, Therese doesn't know what she's talking about, and then she just like makes that like, "Oh, you're a girl who fell from space" kind of comment, and it's like, she's. I don't think it's predatory, because I think that whole lunch scene sort of validates this meet cute of sorts, because Carol is like testing the water. She's asking questions about about her life, and Rooney Mara is giving her a lot.
And so it kind of like things start happening really, really quickly, because it's very much like
she invites her over to the house pretty quick.
and the house is out. Like, it's not right around the corner. It's
She
like
has
a
to,
big.
she has to go
trip.
pick her up.
Yeah, she has to go pick her up in the car, and Jake Lacey doesn't understand all this stuff. But this evening at the house, when Harge shows up and they have a fight, and she's just kind of like, "Oh shit, let me hide." That is so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
when he
it's
says
really uncomfortable right after a really sweet scene like that scene where she's playing piano, and I love the small character tick of she, and I guess it's more of the time period, but like she takes her shoes off to get comfortable, and she's like pressed, her boobs are pressed right up on Rooney Mara.
Yeah,
I think that she's playing her that Billie Holiday song because that's what she gives her.
Oh, that's what she gives her later
in the movie.
Record.
Oh, and I am holding up the vinyl of the soundtrack of Carol.
The Carol soundtrack.
Yeah. I mean, the Carter Burwell score on vinyl because, yes, I own it.
I do love, though, later on in the movie when she gives her a gift and and Carol opens it up and it's a record. And she's like, "It's what I played for you." And she's like, "Wow, thanks."
Yeah.
I love
like,
it.
"Oh, that's great."
I didn't give a shit about what you were playing.
She goes, "What?"
I don't actually listen to music. But
I thought she was like, "Oh, you were such a shitty player.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that
it was that. Yeah,
that was a song."
Yeah.
Okay, great.
But when Harge and Carol are fighting, and he sees her, and he goes over to her and he says, "How do you know my wife?" Yeah. Oh my god! I'm just like, that's so cringe.
Walks right from fixing like her kitchen sink, and then he goes over to talk to her.
And he's like right in the frame. He's like looking down the barrel of the gun.
I mean, I feel like if I was Therese, I would probably just say, "I'm just a friend of Carol." I don't think I would pull out I met her at a department store.
The real dig is he turns and then he's like, "You have the nerve," or something like that to Cate Blanchett. And you're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
He's harsh. The men in this are all garbage. There's not one redeeming man. Even the lawyers are the worst people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like shit.
Yeah, because again, it's like this is his client, but it's like, again, time frame. So it's like he's got to be like, "Oh, hey, shut up." Like, but yeah. And it's that thing where it's like when Kyle Chandler goes to the house, each time he goes to talk to her, is it a thing of just like, come back, like come back with us, spend Christmas with us, blah blah blah, and it's not, "I love you," it's like, you're my wife.
There's no discussion of we're going to work through our problems and everything's going to be okay.
No, it's that like, you're a woman, you're not allowed to be alone on Christmas, even though I'm divorcing you. I mean, but really, and that also struck me too. I mean, talking about time period where I was like, a divorced woman in the 50s.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like horrifying, like shunned to society.
Well, she wasn't even able to see Jindy or whatever the daughter's name is.
I'm not looking it up because I want to just see what names you come up with.
Each time she gets kicked out, she has like longer and longer without seeing, the poor daughter. But
But
yeah,
she
it's a
uses
mess.
the daughter as an excuse, which is also like, to stalk her and to do all that. And,
how Carol's mother-in-law looks at her at that holiday party. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That whole holiday party scene, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That was an uncomfortable scene. And the dinner later, the Christmas dinner that they have is all of it.
Talking about her therapist. Yeah.
Yeah. The psychoanalyst.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he's a doctor. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So all that is like awful, but Carol does these things where she'll invite Therese over, it'll get interrupted, and then it's like, "All right, well, bitch, I got to drive you home. Like, leave. This is done.
I'm taking you to the train station.
This is done. I'm taking you to the train station.
Yep.
Bye." And several times she does this to her,
Right.
and it's like, that kind of shit sucks. And it's like, that's not predatory lesbian, but it's also somebody who, I mean, obviously she's going through it. She's going through it with her family, her husband. She wants to see her daughter, but at the same time, she's not in any place mentally where she should be pursuing a new relationship.
Yeah.
And Therese is the one that kind of gets the shaft each time.
Yeah, and it's sad. I mean, and that's where it surprised me on the rewatch where how much it just hit emotionally. I mean, just going through, someone putting you through the ring around and all that, and then being like, no, but what did I do? What did I do wrong?
And I think that's how
then being like, oh no, you were not in a place, but you still wanted me there. You wanted someone there. So
and that's how I think that
a lot of tears last night.
The Sarah Paulson character is really well used, because when she kind of first finds out about Therese and she's just like, are you kidding me? Like, this is what you need right now. That I think that kind of Sarah Paulson can kind of level with Carol on her level and call her out probably to her face of like, this is probably not what you need. And she also has that moment with Therese where she says, none of this is your fault.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have driven across the country
really
to pick you up.
Which is a really beautiful scene.
Yeah,
I love where I wanted to see where Sarah Paulson read her for filth after after Cate Blanchett goes like, I've never been careful, and then the scene continues and Sarah Paulson's like, yeah, well, she's young, you're old, you got you're a lesbian, she's a lesbian.
It's the 50s.
Yeah, it's the 50s. You need to do this.
Anyway, I got my eye on this redhead who owns a steakhouse outside of Therese.
I'm talking serious.
Rita Hayworth redhead.
Really? You think you got what it takes to handle a redhead?
You going somewhere?
West, I thought. At least for a few weeks until the hearing. What else am I going to do?
Well, I know you don't like driving alone, so... She's young. Tell me you know what you're doing.
I don't. I never did.
I love Sarah Paulson so much in this. She is so not she's not playing against type. No. I mean, she's kind of playing
I feel like Sarah Paulson has been cultivating this type of woman in film and TV for over 10 years.
But this is what I'm saying. Sarah Paulson, when she finally does get a movie, she is, the sidekick. She's playing the same character she played in Down with Love. 10 years earlier, right?
Yes,
if her and Renee had a secret scandalous affair back at the sorority house.
I want to see that movie.
Oh, it's so good. I watched it a week ago. It still holds up.
Yeah.
So
man, Ewan McGregor is so cute.
So
we
good.
have to get the Down with Love on the show eventually too.
We got to get to it.
That would be good. He's very hot in that.
So cute. But you know what I'm saying? So it's and that brings me back to my earlier point. It's could Sarah Paulson carry this movie? Could she have carried the role of Carol, And she is our most iconic lesbian, actress leading lady in 2021, soon to be 2022, So it's just that conversation. And I'm not the at the front of the parade saying only queer characters need to be played by queer people.
But it's a good point.
Yeah, but because I believe
give somebody like Sarah Paulson a shot at playing this type of role.
Because at this point in her life, she's not getting any younger. So it's the leading ladies are going to be getting fewer and fewer. So will she ever get to play a character like Carol in a movie? Maybe not.
Or maybe so. I mean, maybe all of what the Ryan Murphy universe has been building up to,
right?
Her in the 30s or something, or the first Depression era lesbian. I don't know.
Go.
But you're right, and I was thinking that too, and I thought she does very well. But she's still playing Sarah Paulson.
Yes.
Cate Blanchett is very... Yes, we know it's Cate Blanchett. She just is a star like that. But she's playing a type. She's playing the style.
Yeah.
And Sarah Paulson is playing the style kind of because she has a wig and a pantsuit. I mean, she breaks the emotion at the end in that diner scene, but I was like, could she play everything underneath what Cate Blanchett is playing, or is she just going to have the same face and Sarah Paulson voice that we know?
True.
And
yeah. Because Kate does do that thing so well that she does, when she played Katharine Hepburn and when she is, in Carol, and what she possibly could have brought to
somebody like
Lucille Ball,
Right, exactly.
There's a reason that she gets put in these movies. It's because she just has that.
She can carry the essence of these women really well on film.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she knows how to transform it in her body. I mean, outside of, the thing that kind of shocked me about the physicality of Carol was that, she's rarely looking down. So she's always like, as if she's being seen. That's a very, 1950s kind of thing where she's the housewife who needs to be on and present. And I was like, oh, that's so subtle, but no one else would have done that. Everyone would have made it very modern and internal. And, I'm going to look down and cry. And Kate's like trying to keep it in.
Yeah.
And so, I think someone else would have, maybe Sarah Paulson would have done fine. Maybe she read for it, and then they were like, hey,
we
saw you in Down with Love. There's a great supporting character we want you to do.
Oh, man. Sarah Paulson, our new Mary Wicks.
I'm into that.
That.
Sure.
Our coded, not even coded lesbian sidekick.
I've never even thought of Mary Wicks as like a coded lesbian sidekick.
Yeah, she's definitely lesbian.
I mean, I guess I could see Sarah Paulson if you were going to do a shot-by-shot remake
of
Gus Van Sant's style of a White Christmas, that Sarah Paulson would be working that front desk, reading Variety and like listening in on like industry phone calls.
Totally, with that giant book that's supposedly filled with everything.
See, we're onto something here. Our Mary Wicks for the new millennium.
Yeah, Hollywood, if you're listening, the phone lines are open. Please call in.
I've got show business on line 3.
So back to Brief Encounter. I think you're right too in that this was such a time in movies where I'm even thinking like without the star power of Kate and Rooney, it probably could not get made and probably would still be in development hell.
Yeah.
You kind of alluded to that, Scott. And I was really surprised too about the controversy that it was omitted from the Oscars.
That's what's kind of interesting is I think that a movie like Carol, when it comes to Academy voters, it'll fly when actors are voting on this movie because the categories are voted for in their specific group. So when actors vote on this movie, and also like costume designers, because Sandy Powell's costumes in this movie are incredible, but when you cast the net wide, like Best Picture, a wider audience, which is probably straight, it is straight.
Yeah,
it's not like they're not going to put it in Best Picture or Best Director just because voting a gay man in Best Director, even in 2015, you probably weren't going to see it.
Yeah, and it got me thinking because I always think about Todd Haynes and Almodovar kind of in the same breath because they both did those massive. They came up around the same time, did some like massive queer cinema and such, and I was like, oh right, yeah, Almodovar will never get a Best Director Oscar kind of thing, nor John Waters, nor
I'm still holding out for like John Waters is. I mean, they're going to have to give him that career award. So, I mean, they gave one to what's his name from like B cinema mogul Corman. They gave one to Roger Corman. So why can't they give one to John Waters? Also, what's interesting about this movie is that this is sort of one of the last big Weinstein Company movies. And I know that in 2015, the Weinsteins were going through a lot of financial trouble. So I don't even think that they were even that involved in the production of this movie, just because they were probably just trying to save their sinking company.
Yeah.
That Todd Haynes probably had full reign and control of all of this movie, and all of the award buzz for this movie probably just came from him and also Cate Blanchett. So it's I mean, the Weinsteins were writing the checks, but I don't think that they were really that involved with a lot of creative decisions of this movie. And you can really tell.
Yeah, which is totally fine.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the last big Weinstein movies.
Huh, I didn't even think of that.
Because I mean, everything like the Titanic sank with the Weinstein Company in 2017, and this is 2015.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I did see this in the theaters. I saw it with my roommate, who, again, was obsessed with it at the time. And we cried. It also went over our heads because it's a very very artsy movie.
Yeah.
Although it's very simple. Like, on the surface, I was really struck by, I was like, how the fuck did this get made? There's nothing to the story. There's nothing to the, it unfolds A, B, C, D.
Well, kind of like us talking about why it didn't crack categories like Best Picture and Best Director. It's because the movie's not really award baity in sort of the sense of the word of like what you think of a movie about.
That's a great
like
point.
This that cracks that category, yeah.
Well, that's a great point because I kept thinking back to like period movies like Cinderella Man, Road to Perdition, like that were made before this, where it was very heavy-handed in that, like this is awards and we're doing these things. Yeah. And Carol, I was like, oh, it's just telling, kind of like Brief Encounter. There's nothing to Brief Encounter. It's just straight people talking. That's it. No one dies. Like, it's just very like.
And I feel like for Oscars and for Oscar baity kind of movies, the performances in this one, there's not like a big. Like a breakdown or like a big fight like, neither one of them had this like realization of like, I'm a lesbian. There wasn't, you know what I mean? And so often in the 80s and the 90s, they needed that scene, that was the big emotional, moment. And this movie's, the dialogue is so subdued, and
I do think that they should have put both Cate and Rooney in the same category. I think they both should have been campaign and lead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not to like be sticklers about like category fraud, but there was a lot of category fraud going on in 2015, and this was one of the big like violators of it. Okay. It was like Rooney Mara and Alicia Vikander in supporting actress, and clearly co-lead roles.
Leads. Yeah.
Okay. I can see that. That was another misconception I had watching it the first time, where I thought Therese was the supporting role.
Oh, she's fully the lead of the movie.
Yeah, and then this time around watching it, especially knowing that Patricia Highsmith, it was writing about her, I was like, oh, okay, it's all her movie. It's her movie, totally, 1,000%.
Which makes me think from like an awards kind of standpoint, if you're going to be strategic, if you really wanted to get Cate that third Oscar,
give her the supporting.
You would put her in supporting.
Movie. Yeah.
That's true. Although she was very good in Blue Jasmine, as problematic as that movie is. She was very good in that. Yeah. But she has an Oscar scene. She has several Oscar scenes.
Blue Jasmine, I mean, we won't get into just like Woody Allen, but I will say of all of the newer Woody Allen movies, I do think Blue Jasmine is the best of them all. It is the best. Yeah. It is the best. But you're right, even like the scenes where Cate is crying on the phone, the camera's like above her, showing her head, like you don't really see. It deliberately,
it's not right up in her face.
Todd Haynes is smart enough to know that I'm not going to give you that.
Yeah, and he does a lot of that too. I almost thought, oh, this is a total middle finger to Hollywood, but I was like, no, it's not. But it's not. I mean, it's Todd Haynes being like, I know what you're expecting going into this movie. It's not that.
We're going to do something a little different here.
Yeah.
Yeah, versus Far From Heaven, which was, we're going to give you all the Hollywood Hollywood antics.
Yeah.
With that.
It's so interesting, though, saying that, like, pushing Cate Blanchett for supporting, you know? I mean, the movie's called Carol.
I mean, it's that's very true. It's kind of like when I was thinking earlier this week, back in 2006 with The Devil Wears Prada, if they would have been a little more strategic with that race and put Meryl in supporting, that would have been a slam dunk win.
Yeah.
If they would have put her in supporting. But I guess that when you got Cate Blanchett in a movie called Carol, you got to put her in lead.
Yeah. Not to mention Hollywood is homophobic, so there's that.
But also 2015, if you're really going to dissect that Oscar year, Brie Larson was never not going to win.
That's
for Room.
true.
So
because that was Room, that was and she was great in that. Didn't show her titties, but she was great in that.
She could have.
Yes. Plenty of opportunity. I want to talk about before we move on. I want to talk about the queer renaissance that has been around this movie, because I feel like none of my queer friends talked about it.
I mean, I was at the time.
No one, but no one saw it.
Yeah.
No one saw it, supposedly, and it wasn't on my regular Christmas rewatch, but I was always like, oh, Carol's the Christmas movie. Carol's the New Year's movie. And then just this past year, oh my God, I can't wait to watch Carol this
You've been seeing a lot of it.
Oh my God, I can't wait to watch Carol this Christmas. And two of my really dear friends who are amazing drag performers here in Seattle, one like the number 2 in Miss Texas 1988. They were going to do a Carol-inspired lip sync for a show before it got canceled because of COVID.
Now, if I was doing drag Carol, would I do the restaurant scene?
That's what they were going to do.
We're going to do the restaurant scene? Okay, sure.
That's what they were going to do, and they're so talented. It was going to be amazing. But I was just so shocked this year on my friends' Instagrams and like my friends in New York and stuff, and everyone's like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch Carol. And I did some Googling, and there's this thing called the Cult of Carol.
Oh my God.
I love it. I was reading about that today too. Yeah.
Which is insane, where there was, and Scott, remind me what it was if you read the same article. There was this woman who was a projectionist of a theater, and they just kept showing it because it kept selling out. It might have been Metrograph or something, but like people keep coming to it. So I don't know. I wanted to express that this whole queer renaissance.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it is
deserved, but I'm still like.
I mean, you know how like how straight guys love to just ride really hard for Die Hard. Of that, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. I feel like for gay men, for gay men and lesbians, it's Carol is like the greatest holiday movie of all time.
But even like gay men, I know, like my gay male friends are like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch Carol, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Where were you 6 years ago?
I mean, I'll always remember.
I saw it first.
We were there opening weekend, and I remember they had Carol's fur coat on display at the ArcLight.
Oh, they did? I remember that. I remember that, yeah.
I think that they had Rooney Mara's. I think that it's her last outfit at the restaurant.
Okay.
I think that was the one that they had on display there.
The plaited one, the plaid one, Yeah, I just can't. I don't know. I'm just in awe, and now I'm like, when are we going to have Carol watch parties and Carol Christmas parties?
Oh man!
I mean,
what do we take to like the Carol like shadow play performance to throw at the screen?
Lots of cigarettes.
Yeah,
everyone shows up in a Santa hat.
Yeah,
yep.
A Santa hat or a fur, and you just throw poached eggs at the whole time.
Creamed spinach. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. The food in this, I was like, you're drinking a lot and you're smoking and it just reminds me that like the 50s were not a healthy time.
No, not at all.
Because they're smoking martinis at noon, and then she's like, I'm gonna have creamed spinach and poached eggs. I'm like, you're gonna shit your brains out. That's terrible. That's awful. That's disgusting.
Therese reminding Carol that she can't smoke on the sales floor. And Carol is just like, oh my God, are you fucking kidding me?
And what's Carol's line where she goes, just when everything's wrong, you're out of cigarettes.
That is a straight up like Mommy Dearest line right there.
Yeah.
But Kate just sells that line though.
It
doesn't come off.
There was a pause and then it lands. It was very camp.
I mean, only Kate can sell that line and not.
I mean, we could have had like a Basic Instinct callback when she says she can't smoke on the sales floors.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? Put me in cigarette jail?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
in lesbian jail.
So Jackson, you did send me the. It was for the Independent Film Awards. It was for the Independent Spirit Awards with Kate McKinnon, and they did a Carol sketch.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot
very
about
funny.
that.
Yeah.
And
Didn't we watch that live?
Camille Nanjiani is the waiter.
Okay.
And it's kind of clever of how that scene is shot that you never see the waiter.
No.
So like it cuts together really well because you don't see him.
What? It's the 1950s, you know. You're blowing my mind. This is not that kind of place.
Kumail, it is that kind of place. You work in a lesbian restaurant. The place is called Leslie's, for crying out loud. Look at your name tag.
Oh, I thought it said Leslie's.
Look around. There are a lot of clandestine glove lunches happening here.
2 gloves. Oh, yeah. How did I miss that?
Hey, look. The Indian kid finally figured it out.
Whose eggs do I gotta poach to get a refill on my creamed spinach? I can't wait for the 50s to be over.
You can't. Hey, Blondie, why don't you come join us?
Yeah, you got 2 sure things sitting right here.
3 if you count my hat. Come on, Carol. Give a dog a bone.
They make a good point.
Why?
Because you're maybe, not there yet.
Well, I barely even know what to order for lunch.
I'm going to pop over there and get what's mama's. Thank you so much for lunch and for the gloves. Bye-bye.
I do love those restaurant scenes because it's so, the whole movie is populated with people, which does a really great job with the isolation, but also, but those restaurant scenes are great because just there's 2 people in the background. Because at first I was like, oh, are they in a gay restaurant? Yeah. A windowless bar or something like that.
Well, Therese goes to the gay record store.
But is it a gay record store? There's just
I like to think it is.
Those two lesbians in the corner. What are you buying? Billie Holiday?
I'm with Scott. I thought it was a lesbian.
Okay,
one. It's kind of a pulp shop.
Sure, this gay hipster record store.
Yeah, where it's 3 knocks on the door and we'll show you the basement kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. That works.
Password is Fidelio. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, goodness. I mean, yeah, transported. The food, that's the thing about movies that are set in a certain time frame. This one was just oh no, this food is awful. The drinks are the worst. You know those 2 are all full of coffee from the minute they woke up. Yep. So yeah, like you said, after eating the poached eggs, no. I was
I'm not going home with you. I know what you just ate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. Not at all. Okay, is this your favorite lesbian movie or the lesbian movie of the 21st century?
I mean, I think it's the quintessential lesbian movie of the 21st century. I'm trying to think of
other lesbian movies.
Other lesbian movies.
Well, you do love Blue Crush.
We're the total target audience for answering this question.
Yeah.
I remember around this time, Blue is the Warmest Color came out.
Yeah. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Super controversial.
Very controversial, and I know that director is very problematic.
Extremely yeah, we don't talk about that anymore, which we shouldn't. But
but I mean, it launched Leah Sardou too,
right? And it's a tough watch now, knowing what the director put her through. It's kind of like that whole Last Tango in Paris.
Yeah, I was going to say Last Tango in Paris.
Just about that, but But I remember at the time, especially like with my roommate, after Carol, or we saw it after Carol. It had been released, and there was all the controversy. And then watching it, we were just like, "Oh no, this is the artsy."
Yeah,
because it's like 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The sex scenes are like 12 minutes, and you're just like, I don't care, and it's just like high art, all the like very foreign indie. But I remember it was kind of it was spoken in the same breath as Carol, because it was like there were 2 lesbian movies at the end. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
I was going to say Portrait of a Lady on Fire is up there. I love that movie.
Yeah, I just think it. Yeah, and it does what Carol does, where it's very simple. It's told in a very simple way. It's very stylized, and there's nothing to it. Like, and that's great. It's perfect. Yeah.
Period lesbian dramas.
What I mean,
other period
Ammonite
that
just came out last year.
Yeah,
yeah.
And Ammonite was compared a lot to Portrait of a Lady on Fire too.
Yeah, it's the exact same story.
Yeah,
it's the exact same story.
Is it
like, we can't be lesbians, but we're lesbians.
Is it the Dante's Peak to the Portrait of a Lady on Fire?
Yeah, pretty
volcano?
much.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the not After Earth. What were the asteroid movies?
Oh, Deep Impact.
And Armageddon.
Armageddon.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're just it's the after one, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Well, and then there's like movies with lesbian overtones in it, or direct ones, like The Favorite, and it's just so Hollywood's getting there.
Yeah,
Hollywood's getting
there. Yeah. I was kind of thinking about the sex scene as we're watching this movie, going, was it like really? I was trying to remember, like, is the sex scene going to be really graphic? I don't really remember what happened, and then it happened, and I was like, oh, all right, okay, it was just graphic enough.
It's graphic. It's very tastefully done.
It's enough.
Mm-hmm.
It is shocking. Like Todd Haynes does a really good job about like all the things you're expecting in a movie to be like, not to jump ahead, but the end is the second time someone says "I love you" is when Cate Blanchett says it, because Rooney Mara's boyfriend says it to her. But it's like, oh yeah, no one has said "I love you," and then like the sex scene comes, you're like, yeah, I haven't seen tits in about an hour, so that's pretty surprising.
Yeah.
Speaking of shocking nudity in a Todd Haynes movie, I'm kind of flashing back to Mildred Pierce in Evan Rachel Wood.
Yeah.
And the full frontal of Evan Rachel Wood in that series. I mean, it's for the purpose of the character, and her mother is watching her, that it's like shocking.
Yeah.
So it's like Todd Haynes knows when to go there when the material calls for it.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he just gives us enough, but enough to where, when they open their boobs and this, like, you're like, oh my God.
All right, yeah. And there's dialogue in the scene. She's like, I want to see you, like all that stuff. And I do remember because that was the thing. As we're watching it tonight, I'm like thinking, was I shocked by this? I don't remember. And then it happened, and I was like, "Oh, I was shocked at the sex scene when I saw it."
Totally. That was a pearl.
Yeah. I mean, I remember we saw this movie at the ArcLight Hollywood in one of their biggest screens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just kind of remember like looking around, just being like, all right, okay, yep.
We're doing this, everybody. We're all in this together, everyone. Let's go.
I mean, something that should be in more Hollywood movies, in my opinion.
Sex scenes.
Lesbian sex scenes.
They're going out of fashion. We need to bring sex scenes back.
I mean, it's kind of true though.
Yeah.
But it's a testament to how Todd knows how to use it, because again, by that point we haven't seen flesh, and so then like, oh right,
Yeah, because these two characters, they've like, they've gone on the lunch date. They've like, she's gone to her home. Now they're on this weird road trip. That's like,
you don't really know the specifics of this road trip. Like, where are they going? Are they going to see the Great Lakes in like the month of December? I don't know.
No. She says it weird. That's one of the weird parts about the movie is she goes, I just want to go drive west to keep driving.
Yeah,
and then Rooney Mara's like, knock fucking knock, I'm coming with you.
Here I am. I paid my rent through February.
Yeah.
And then they just drive.
Yeah.
And go to Iowa, Waterloo, Iowa.
Yeah, but
like
the first two
places.
nights they are intimate, but in that intimate way of like hand on the shoulder, we're having, dinner on a road trip, but it's never gone there. And then so finally when we do, it's like, all right, here it is.
That's when the pegging starts. Exactly.
Only to find out that everything has been that son of a bitch has been like taping all of their conversations in the room next door.
The worst. That whole reveal is like, oh no. Yeah. Terrible.
And he's so brazen, he doesn't even get scared when she pulls a gun on him. Right? He's not even like, he's just like, fuck, you're not going to do anything.
And then like Rooney Mara's like, I trusted you. And he's like, I'm just doing my job, ma'am. You're like, shut up.
You're right. All the men in this movie are pieces of shit.
Mm-hmm.
They're all terrible. They're pieces of garbage.
There was the sweet guy that worked for the newspaper.
But he throws himself on her when they're just like having a nice conversation at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
He says no, she says no, and he keeps going.
It's just a kiss, but still, she does say, I'm not comfortable with this. So it's like,
now, I wondered, too, watching this about whether this kind of I don't know if this started this or this was just something I noticed with the older and younger dynamic. I mean, what you were talking about with the predatory thing, but I was even thinking back to Call Me By Your Name, I think like I mentioned earlier, and I was like, yeah, that was fine when I was watching it, but then upon thinking about it, I was like, is Hollywood romanticizing?
Well, I mean, don't even get me started on Licorice Pizza.
Sure.
That's
a part of the story and characters of the movie, but
that's basically about grooming, right?
There's two different schools of thought on it.
I mean, I read P.T. Anderson's like defend of it, and I got it.
Okay,
like I understand where he's coming from.
Okay,
because he kind of puts the idea out there that no lines are crossed between these two characters that we see
in the movie.
Yeah, in
the movie.
But in my fan fiction sequel,
I was gonna say in the sequel that is no longer greenlit.
No, so many lines being crossed.
I did like Licorice Pizza.
I loved it. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
But there's some weird stuff in it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, you're right. The age difference is, it's apparent.
But I mean, in the gay community, you do see age differences like that a lot,
and in real life. And in this movie, Therese, the Rooney Mara character, is of she's of age,
like she's in her early 20s.
Yeah, no. I'm not implying otherwise, but I just find it interesting. I was like, oh yeah, in a queer love story, it's like it has to be this nurturing older person bringing the younger person into adulthood through falling in love and breaking their heart.
Well, and especially with like Call Me By Your Name, there's the dad character that's very much like the Amy Poehler character from Mean Girls of that I'm going to be the cool dad, and you can go get like fucked by Armie Hammer. I don't care. Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Fine. Just don't tell me.
If you're going to drink, do it in the house.
It's fine.
Yeah. I feel like maybe with lesbians, age difference isn't as much of a thing. Maybe. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Again, call in.
Yes. 100. The lines are open.
This was probably a movie that I should have saved for one of my lesbian friends. But
that's fine.
Jackson really wanted to do it, though.
Yeah, no, this is a great conversation.
I also wanted to do The Hours, which is my other...
We will get to The Hours. I mean, The Hours is going to be like an event episode of our show. That is just like the movie that recruited me when I was 17 years old to be like gay. It's just like it was the fucking hours. My parents dropping me off at that movie.
Oh my god.
Yep.
But I love that. I mean, and that was way before. No, I agree with you, Scott. It was transformative for me too. And it was this very high profile Hollywood lesbian movie, but it was less. I mean, it was overtly lesbian. It wasn't as overtly lesbian as Carol, because at first they were just like, it's actually about Virginia Woolf, and
it's about it's about our love for literature. Yep.
Yeah, right. And AIDS and suicide and then lesbianism. And you're like, oh my god. Jeez. Like, it takes you a while to get through that, to be like, oh, every one of them are okay, I see. Got it.
Wow.
But that was very mainstream. That was very mainstream too. Yeah.
I mean, the gay agenda.
Yeah.
Gotta hand it to him.
We got it. Todd Haynes.
We'll all be getting our newsletter from the gay agenda
Hold on.
very shortly.
I was looking at Todd Haynes' filmography today, and I saw a movie coming up that kind of made me be like, oh my god. What is
an upcoming
Todd Haynes movie that is in development. Please hold. Right. It is called May. Okay, it is called May December, with Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore attached. And the tagline on IMDb: 20 years after their notorious tabloid romance gripped the nation, a married couple buckles under the pressure when an actress arrives to do some research for a film about their past. With Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore.
Wow.
And they're the May December relationship?
I think so.
All right, I'm on board with that.
Okay, all right. Okay, Todd.
I hope this movie gets made.
Yeah.
It must. I hope you watch Safe, Scott. And
yes, I need to. And also, it's been a hot second since I've revisited Velvet Goldmine. I don't think I've really watched it in its entirety since I was like 18 years old.
I haven't watched it since high school. Yeah, because I watched that around the same time I watched Hedwig, and I think I preferred Hedwig a lot more than it. I need to rewatch Velvet Goldmine, but it's Ewan McGregor and Christian Bale, and right? Isn't Christian Bale?
Christian Bale. Yeah. Yes. And that soundtrack is everything.
Oh yeah, it was fire.
That soundtrack was so good. I wore that CD out.
Is that one of those soundtracks now that is just not on streaming?
Yes.
Over weird music rights issues.
Can't find it anywhere.
Yeah. I might have my CD in that like big book of CDs that we have in the garage. I'll have to look for it. But yeah, it's not readily available. But we'll have to revisit Velvet Goldmine. You see Ewan McGregor's dick in it.
This is very true.
Yeah.
You see the early 2000s Ewan McGregor's dick.
Yes, absolutely.
Man, when I found out this year that Mary Elizabeth Winstead broke up his marriage and had a kid, and I'm just like, this is kind of awful, but yeah, good for you, bitch.
Good for her.
Yeah, good for her.
Good for her.
Living the life that we all secretly dream of.
Yeah,
running off with Ewan McGregor.
If I were her, I would have
done the same.
Of course I would.
I forgot one bit of Cate Blanchett trivia that I thought was interesting today.
All right.
So, Cate Blanchett replaced Rachel Weisz in a movie. Do you know what it was? Rachel Weisz had to bow out due to, I think, time constraints or something. And I think that she had just had a kid, too.
Okay.
So do you know what movie it was?
I do not.
What?
Jackson?
Oh, is it Eyes Wide Shut?
No, this is Cate Blanchett.
Kate.
Yeah.
What did she replace?
It was The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Apparently that role was offered to Rachel Weisz. Very interesting. Yeah.
God, that's such a good. It's a good movie. It's weird on the rewatch, but it's a great.
But it's weird on the rewatch, but it's one of those movies. I remember a few years ago when I upgraded my DVD to a Blu-ray, and they Criterioned it, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna like put it on my TV and just see how it looks. And I sat down and watched all 2.5 hours of it, not really thinking I was going to like finish it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is really good. I mean, that again. if you don't think about that movie while you're watching it, it's a great movie. If you're thinking about it, you're like, no.
I mean, it's like a tall tale. It's like a fable.
And it's David Fincher with a lot of money and Brad Pitt and Alexander Desplat's score is amazing. So you're just like, yeah, okay, cool, money, Hollywood. I love the Cate Blanchett trivia that supposedly she did some voiceover for the masked woman in Eyes
I was going to say, I know that you like Eyes Wide Shut. I did my holiday revisit of Eyes Wide Shut. It had been a while. And supposedly, according to like the internet, the woman that Tom Cruise meets, that she sort of tips him off of, you need to get the fuck out of here, it is 80 Yard by Cate Blanchett.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Which now when I watch it, I'm like, oh, that does sound like her. But it does. I mean,
they kind of muffle her voice a little bit in post, but yeah, I think it's Cate Blanchett. Mm-hmm.
There's some inflection she does that on my revisit a few weeks ago. I was like, okay, yeah, that's
and I don't think that she's ever officially gone on the record talking about it either.
No, there's nothing written in any book about or article about it, but there's like it's one of those rumors. I think it's I mean my thing is like it's to keep the secret. You know, it's like that Stanley Kubrick wanted around the whole movie was just like, oh yeah, no one did it. It was just some girl. You know? Like, you know?
Oh man, I mean, Kate, she's great.
She's incredible. It's Cate Blanchett. Like she's one of my favorite actresses. Like she's great. She's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Can do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I love her non-movie Cate Blanchett Australian speaking voice.
Yeah, you like that she just
before.
has this Australian accent.
Her Australian accent's very thick and pronounced when you hear, you know, when you watch her like
in there.
Graham Norton or whatever, you're like, whoa.
I saw some clips of her doing. She was she was in because you know she owns a theater company in yes, Australia or New Zealand, and there were clips of her doing a play called The Maids, and I was just like so struck by her Australian accent. I was like, oh my god, no, no.
It's crazy because she usually plays, you know, these like, you know, sophisticated staid women.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Australians are not sophisticated. I feel like I've said this before in another episode. What were we talking about?
We were talking about Nicole Kidman's accent in Batman Forever.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
and how there's certain line readings of Nicole Kidman that you can really tell.
Oh, you're talking about Dr. Chase Meridian?
Dr. Chase Meridian, like just her Australian accent comes out with certain words that she says.
I love her restraint of her accent with the AMC ad.
Oh yes, they are. She says "are."
They
are. She doesn't say they are.
Now, Cate Blanchett too. I love her in Life Aquatic, the Wes Anderson.
I think she's one of my favorite performances of that movie, and I don't love the Life Aquatic, but I like her in that movie.
I mean, I think it gets a lot of flack. It's really, I mean,
I need to do a revisit of it.
Yeah, give it another chance. It's not any. I mean, there's a lot wrong with it in the sense of like Wes Anderson just doesn't. He has a lot of ideas he doesn't ever resolve. But Cate Blanchett is funny and I'm like, why doesn't she do more comedy?
Yeah,
like
she should.
She's
very funny.
Like Lucy or something like that. She would have been amazing.
I did love Nicole Kidman and Being the Ricardos, though.
Okay, I'm watching it soon.
I do think that she's going to win.
Okay.
All right.
I might have to eat my words on that in a few months, but folks. I do think that she is going to win a second lead Oscar.
After she wins, she's going to do a 1930s lesbian movie with Sarah Paulson, so can't wait for that.
And have they ever starred across from each other in a movie? I don't think that they've ever actually been in a movie together, have they?
I don't think so.
Nope.
Cast them as sisters. I want to see that movie.
There you go.
That'd be good.
I'll watch that.
That's January to May, and then there's May to December.
There you go.
Julia Moore.
Oh my goodness.
Come on, Todd.
Get on it. Oh my goodness. Well, I think we're getting close to.
So I've been asking all of our guests in the month of December for our Christmas themed movies. What movies do you return to this month? Because we've been watching a lot of fucking holiday movies this year, like more so than usual.
Yeah. I go to a lot of ones y'all have talked about. Pee-wee's Christmas.
Love it.
Is a new tradition. I love A Barbara Stanwyck Christmas. I love Christmas in Connecticut.
I just watched the one that Ben recommended. What's the one that she's the shoplifter?
I'm blanking on it. But yeah, she has two Christmas movies. One is, I think, Christmas in Connecticut. The other is, oh gosh, yeah.
That one. We'll find it.
Take a look. Yeah, look it up real quick. But those are great. Love A Barbara Stanwyck Christmas.
Yeah.
I always go back to It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah. Yeah. I
always go back to It's a Wonderful Life.
I have not watched it the past few years, and I made it a point this December to revisit it, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it holds up. I watch it every Christmas Eve. Donna Reed is just so good.
That scene between Donna Reed and Jimmy Stewart when they're outside of the house throwing the rocks, I think it's one of the most romantic scenes of a Hollywood movie. Just when I think of romantic scene in a movie, I immediately think of that scene.
And then the scene where they're on the phone is beautiful too. But when you watch it again, you're like, oh, she's the one who's like making all of this happen.
Yes,
for him. You know,
she's the one that saves George's ass at the end of the movie.
Sorry?
She's the one that saves George's ass at the end of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But also she's the one that's like, puts him in his place. And,
I love that scene where she breaks the record.
Yep, so good.
Where they're both on the phone together. I did look up the Barbara Stanwyck movie. It is called Remember the Night.
Remember the Night.
And Remember the Night has that story structure that just feels like a Hallmark movie, but this is like the genesis of the Hallmark movie.
Early genesis.
Like the early, patient zero of that type of story.
Because there was never, because Christmas movies were not as common back then. Right. I mean, outside of A Christmas Carol, that was it. I mean, you had a few of those. And even It's a Wonderful Life never picked up until the 60s when it fell in the public domain.
Right.
I also love Muppet Christmas Carol, of course.
My favorite of the Christmas carols.
Eyes Wide Shut. Great. Yep. Mm-hmm. Great Christmas. I did a rewatch of The Family Stone this year, and I was like, I'm gonna watch this very drunk every year and kind of like it.
We'll eventually get to our Family Stone episode.
Yeah,
I feel like it's been building at this point. We might get to it next year.
There's a lot wrong with that. Claire Danes definitely is the enemy. That's all. I'll leave that with.
Yeah.
And then there's a movie that not a lot of people have seen. My parents love it. We watched it every Christmas. We had the DVD. You can't find it on any streaming services, but it's the prequel to the Waltons TV series. There was a movie called Homecoming, A Walton's Christmas.
Oh my God!
Starring Patricia Neal.
Wow.
As the mom. And pretty much all of Richard Thomas is in it, everyone who did the movie.
Yeah.
But it's a very sweet. I think it was made for TV.
Yeah.
But it was a very sweet movie. So, but yeah, you can't. It's not streaming anywhere. But I like watching that because that reminds me of family and everything like that. Yeah.
Whenever we're channel surfing on Sling TV at 12 a.m. The Waltons is always on. The Waltons is always on one channel, and Murder, She Wrote is always on the other channel.
Yeah, it's a different. If you go into the Homecoming expecting the Waltons, it's a lot. It's not that. It's really not that. It's very well done, and Patricia Neal's great. I mean, it's one of her later performances, but she's really fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, this has been so much fun, man.
Hey, this is fun. I'm glad three gay men can analyze a lesbian movie. What a time to do that. 2021. Look how far we've come.
Right?
Look how far.
Is great. Look how far progress.
Right.
Progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do kind of feel bad not having a lesbian on for this movie, but I mean, it had to be done.
I'm honored. I'm honored you all asked me. This was so much fun.
Yeah.
Of course. As always, and I hope I can come back at least
of course
4 more times next year.
Yes, indeed. 2022. We'll have you on for 8 episodes. All right, man. Well, it's about that time to say good evening. But again, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Happy New Year's, Jackson.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's to y'all.
Yes, indeed.
We had our lonely little New Year's party, much like Therese and Carol in their hotel room
last year.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens this year. All right, buddy. We'll see you soon.
Okay, great. Thanks.
See you later.
Bye. And thank you so much for listening, everybody.
Happy New Year's. What a 2021.
Happy New Year.
We did an episode a week.
We absolutely did.
A year.
We did.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So we have some big news. We will be taking a little break. We are going to be finishing season 2 of Movies That Made Us Gay. Don't worry, our break won't be that long. It's probably just going to be a few weeks. But don't worry, we will be doing Patreon content.
Yes.
We are going to be doing a few commentaries.
Yes.
We will be doing a free one.
At least one free commentary. Yeah. So we'll post a link on Patreon. So you'll have to go to the Patreon website or the app to access it, but you will not have to be a patron or subscriber. It'll be unlocked for the general public to listen to. So, and we actually have one on there that's like that.
We have 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, 10 Things I Hate About You. That's
we
free.
did that around our 100th episode.
Yes, indeed.
So, you're welcome to listen to our commentary. Join if you would like to check out all of our other ones. We do a lot of fun commentaries. You can either listen to them separate. I know that people probably do without watching the movie.
Yeah.
Or you can queue up the movie, hit play when you hear the 3 beeps, and watch along with us. They're a lot of fun.
With the movie. It's really cool.
Yeah,
they sync
it
up
is
with
really
the movie.
cool, yeah.
I've done it with commentaries that I'm talking on.
We just did Black Christmas in the month of December.
It's so fun. I love it. I think you should watch it with the movie, but you can also just listen to it as another supplemental episode.
There might be some pauses.
There might be some pauses
if you listen to it in your car,
but
we are kind of watching it.
But they're still fun. So it's definitely worth checking out, and we've said this before. If you want to jump on the Patreon and just drop $10, you'll have the entire month. So for $10, you'll be able to listen to 12 commentary tracks, in the 30 days, and get them all in, listen to them all, and then even just a $10 contribution to the Patreon for 1 month is so helpful to us.
Yeah, it means a lot.
Yeah, it means a lot, and don't feel bad if you have to join up just to listen and then stop your membership. It's totally fine. Think of it as a one-time contribution of $10 to the cause, and you get some great stuff. And it's fun for us we'll send you out the links to the newsletters and all that great stuff. So
we'll be doing a new newsletter very, very soon too.
Yes. December was very, very big. We'll send out one early in the new year, and then we'll send another one out in January. So newsletters are coming. Don't worry. So yeah, we'll be taking a little break, but not to worry.
Yeah.
We'll be back. This is episode 132, season 4.
No, season...
Are we in season 3?
I think that we're just finishing up. Our season 2 was...
Let me...
I think this is season 3.
We're finishing season 3. We're going to be starting season 4 in 2022.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's how it works. We can edit this, but
Pete, you told me that we had a new review.
We do. We have a brand new review. It's an iTunes review.
Oh, I want to hear it.
All right, let's take a look at this iTunes review. This is from Apple Podcast listener that goes by the name of DJ Evil Dave. The title of the review is Refreshing, Engaging, Uplifting, Enlightening, 5 stars. I found this podcast to be a delightful alternative to many other movie podcasts. Not only does this show cover films not usually discussed, but does so in both a personal and informative way. For instance, Scott, Pete, and guests relate stories of how the movie in question affected them then and now. Also, they take a critical eye at films, making comparisons to similar movies or delving into the other works of the actors, directors, and customers. A solid show that never disappoints. 5 stars.
Yay! I like that review.
Yes.
I always try to do a podcast that I would want to listen to.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yep. And, doing this podcast for as long as we have, we kind of become not snobs, but snobs. We kind of get into this thing where we're just like, hey, we know what it takes to put into a podcast. Mm-hmm. We know what it takes to produce one. And so we're just like, I want to listen to this show. I want to listen to that show. So we strive to put out a podcast that people will enjoy, and thank you guys so much. It's the end of the year. It's a holiday season.
It's been a hell of a year,
and it's been a crazy 2 years.
And we went December hard this year. I don't think that we've ever done this many
we really did.
holiday themed movies in December. I mean, we love a fucking theme on this show.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's been a hell of a time, but we're still, we're still around, and we're still going to be making more episodes come January, February 2022.
I mean, I have quite a few guests that we will be having on. I've already have them on the books, and I just haven't scheduled the dates yet.
So, thank you very much. We have some Patreon shout-outs.
Yay, Patreon shout-outs.
Patreon, we would like to say hey, hello, and thanks to all of our wonderful patrons: Alberto, Esperanza, Nicole, Susan, Barry, JJ, Amy, Leighton, Shelby, Michael, Charlie, Paul, Jamie, Drew, Jimmy, Genevieve, Dawn, Joshua, Emma, Melly, Aaron, Melinda and Jim, Jessica, Nick and Shannon, Christine, and Rufino.
Thank you
so much, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. We've talked about our Patreon. Go over to patreon.com/movies that made us gay to check out some more details. We'd also love it if you would follow us on any and all of those social media platforms. Apple Podcasts, and now Spotify. You can rate the show. So give us 5 stars on Apple and on Spotify. If you listen on Spotify, hit those 5 stars.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter at MTMUG Pod.
And on Instagram and Facebook at
Movies That Made Us Gay.
Yes, indeed. You can also follow us on our personal socials. My name is Pete. I am at Peter Lasagna on Instagram and Twitter.
And I am Oscar Scott on Twitter and Scott Youngballer on Instagram, and follow my letterbox. I've been going hard at it lately.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. This was a long one, but it was a really, really fun one. We'll see you very, very soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.